Hello everyone. Now we're moving on to ADNA and VDNA. That's article and video. DNA, as you probably remember from previous modules, is based on the idea of stackable systems, where complexity is built out of very simple parts, and it means made up of. So what I'm really trying to say here is articles and videos can be made up of the same components that exist further down the chain in your stackable parts or systems, as we covered in our first video. Now, ADNA and VDNA, I'm going to give credit to Mike Koenig, who showed me that he had a lot of success when he formulated or crafted his headlines and his painkiller articles. I call it painkiller articles, he just called them headlines. By using your articles and turning them into both videos and slideshows. Using software such as SlideRocket, which I'm using to give this presentation, this will ultimately become a video which you're watching, and ultimately will become content once it's transcribed. So there's unlimited kinds of content that can be repurposed. This is what we call repurposing content, and you'll get really good at it. My ultimate goal is to pretty much turn this whole stackable system, even if one person had to do it, a significant portion of all of these extractions of keywords, contents, reproductions, syndications, and transcriptions would be pretty much automated. That's the goal, and we're about halfway there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at ADNA and VDNA. From this point, you want good SEO rankings because you want good conversion, and you want general viral content shareable with signals. Okay, social signals and traffic signals are now beginning to play a role over at the Googleplex. I have hundreds of hours of research with Google+, and I'm trying to integrate that with our knowledge of search engine optimization. Because you want to slice and dice the entire content into high converting HDNA. HDNA, again, is just the same stackable idea of, can you go back please? Sorry. Same stackable idea of DNA, that means made up of headlines. And the whole idea is very simple here, is that if you take transcriptions, video scripts, anything that you could actually, that's text, and break it down into pieces or single tweets, that is 147 characters, ideally, it would be great when you use our upcoming tweet extraction system that's going to get syndicated everywhere based on stuff you produce in Domain Studio. It'd be great if you got a high click on those social spaces. And if you write using the painkiller article method, you're going to get a high click-through rate, as I'll show you in a moment. And there's only one method that really allows that kind of high clickable social links. Okay, and that's painkiller article method. We had to repurpose and recreate that definition. Thanks, Matt. ADNA means the genetic stuff or the building blocks of your articles, as I just said. VDNA means the genetic stuff of the building blocks of your video scripts. I'm repeating myself there. Again, ideally your genetic stuff should be sentences that can double as headlines. These headlines should contain your optimal money keywords as discovered in Module 2, but also in Module 1, your painkillers. The question behind the question, the pain behind the pain. If possible, you need to contain that in the sentence, but you can't do that in every sentence if you're going to construct an intelligent article. However, the painkiller article method, you're at about 70% clickable, 70% intriguing, 70% interesting but incomplete. But not only just interesting but incomplete as a gimmick. You know, you might run Twitter through a large following and you might type something very novelty or weird. You know, Frank Kern likes to use weird in every sentence that he does because people just click on it because it says the word weird. That's really about more motor control reaction. It's really about that's gimmickry. If you tell people to click on a sentence on a Twitter tweet that just has the word weird in it, they will click on it by impulse. But if it's not congruent with who they are and what you're offering, and that bridge isn't connect, they will frequently ask questions, they should ask questions in their mind, they might click on your site and your traffic stats go way up and you can say, oh, look how much traffic But if it doesn't lead to congruent sales, it's really a gimmick. So you have to have interesting but incomplete. It can't just be novelty based, it has to be congruent with your painkiller. Okay? The reason I say that is because the significant part of what people miss in our value proposition is the fact that we're not just using, you know, Dan Zartella or, you know, what kind of things are clickable. We know why and what reason things become clickable in a social space, in a headline space, in a search engine result page. But making them clickable and congruent and leading to a sale, that's a whole different level. And automating all that and lowering the amount of people it takes to create that, that's a whole different process that we've created with Domain Studio, okay? Because we'll be showing you the technology called Perpetual retweet machine that will allow you to automatically put any article you create through a shredder and extract and tweet each sentence out of your mass Twitter army and or other social status update environments. If you're watching this video, this is only released to you. Our users, at least at the time of this taping, don't know anything about this. Also, it is in construction by our Russian programmers, and Matt's hopefully picking up the ball and making it better. We have a lot of stuff we need to integrate. So don't look for this. Don't write the help desk about it. If you don't see it in the members area, it's not done yet. Okay. When I talk about Twitter Army, I have to be careful with what I say because there are terms of service with Twitter. Brian and I have talked a lot about them. Twitter is another way of talking about a social space that you can automate. Okay, and again, we talked about this earlier. There's RSS feeds, XML, RPC feeds for pinging, for SEO updates, which is still incredibly powerful. It's going to be incredibly powerful for years to come. It's been my weak area over the years until last year. I'm learning more and more about this language for SEO, but there's also SEO for social spaces, and that's where everybody gets confused. You can automate social spaces, and you can make it look really unhuman, but there's also ways to automate social spaces that makes it pretty human, and that's tricky. Because automation tends to lead towards, looking like a machine tweeted it out every 15 minutes. If you're using software like if this, then that, you don't really have a lot of control over the spacing between each tweet. If you're using different things, you can automate and drip. You really want software that uses something called humanize. And when it humanizes, it needs to have the same pictures that go out on the tweet and the Twitter and the social spaces, right? So RSS going out to live social environments with real human beings is far more complicated than SEO RSS. And that's why at Domain Web Studio and Network Empire, we split the two out so that you understand. There is one feed to rule them all, but it's a little bit of a myth. You really do want to have a separate one feed for your social spaces and a separate one feed for your SEO, because the SEO engines have a little bit different, okay? The reason I bring this up is that I'm just trying to give you a scope here. This is Sue Bell's web ring domination system that we've created with Matt over the last 5 years. And really, all this does is this points out that this is your real human being at the middle. Here's your soul. Preferably, you should still have a soul. Google has really created Google Plus to make sure that a website still has a soul. Okay, and if they find that it doesn't, and it's automated in any way, and it's WP robot all the way home, they're going to try to look for these types of things. Google Plus socialization traffic, which is why they've integrated their social media statistics. Google Plus, Facebook is a separate part of analytics, Google Analytics. They are taking all of these things out that might anywhere come close to indicating that there's actually a soul. When I say soul, I mean real human beings, really interested via click intrigue, really going to a website and staying there for more than 0.0001 seconds. And they're not a bot. That's a WR1. And yes, it should be siloed, of course. The rules don't change. But the level of soul, pictures, videos, authenticity, human curation has to be there. WRS1, that's your social ring. And the social ring should communicate back and forth. Whether it's video communicating back to the primary site, whether it's Facebook automatically driving traffic from Facebook to the site, or site driving traffic to the Facebook page, whether it's a Facebook like box sitting on your blog that's communicating with your Facebook fan page and exchanging traffic. There's huge value to that, which I think most SEOs are only beginning to understand. Are we okay, Sue? Mm-hmm. Okay. There's social proof with like boxes. There's all kinds of stuff that's happening with that. The timeline environment and the Facebook environment tends to have more soul than Google's search engines. People hang out a lot longer, they're stuck in a context, and therefore, when they're putting a lot of their emotional energy towards something and they click through, Google is now beginning to take that into account. Of course, they would like to have their own version of that. That's called Google Plus, right? All right, so as you go further out, you're looking at web ring number 2. Web ring number 2 is really sites that, okay, true story, don't connect your Google Plus account or your Google Gmail account with your WR2 Google account. Don't do it. I have now learned, Sue's been telling me that for years. I've been, okay, I'll believe it when I believe it. It's obvious in some ways, but now it's so obvious, like even a non-programmer can understand what's going on. You don't want, because your feed burner account, which is your RSS feed, is Gmail specific, and your Google account and your Google Plus feed is dashboard specific, You don't, especially when you're doing some advanced techniques, which we'll show you later, you don't want Google to know every single feed burner and remix thing for your RSS for both social and SEO that you have. Okay, you want to keep these separate. What's also nice is there's still a lot of things that work really, really well in terms of pseudo automation, more like curation automation, such as videos and creation of just different things, that it's just better you keep those secret. You know, you're going to drive traffic through inbound links and through nice social nuance, and you know, through sprinkling a little bit of soul in there, but not just, when I say soul, I mean you want to put like Facebook, Google Plus under your videos, and you know, people can still like the interesting articles. You still want to curate and do all these things, okay? But more importantly, Sue's going to get into much later how this really works at a highly technical level, dealing with PageRank. I'm less focused on PageRank. I've handed more of that stuff to Sue and Matt to clarify for me. I focus more on the human factor as it connects to the branding between these two things, okay? All of it matters, just matters together. So you got a lot to deal with. I'm dealing with WebRing 2. So when I talk about WebRing 2, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your own blog platforms. When Sue's talking about WR, we're talking about just sites that you own in your own domain, your own server, own accounts. We're talking about WRS, we're talking about third-party platforms that you don't own but drive a lot of traffic.
Things like Posterize.
Like YouTube. Yeah, I automatically default immediately when I think social media these days. Most people don't think YouTube of social media. I think of it as deferral media. It's I get more traffic from that by referral and deferral than anything I've ever found. And if you use YouTube and Facebook together, or YouTube and Pinterest together, it gets absolutely nuts. And 99.9% of people do not know how to do that. They think they have to do it manually, they don't. Okay, so this is all of that, and you can theoretically, over late night coffee, Sue and I have talked much to do about how wide you could actually go. I've discovered with some of my friends and some of my mastermind groups who are into hardcore SEO RSS feeds and the rest, that they have actually gone out further than this and experimented. It's hard to determine where they actually, how they can possibly test that. And I have a little bit of they're going to have to prove to me. But for the most part, if you're out this far, you're going to be crushing it. If you're out this far with social media and you're automating that, I guarantee you're just crushing anyone across any cluster of keywords. I mean, it's almost painful for them. I mean, there's no way they could ever, because the strategy, most people don't think about these strategies. They don't think about social media. They don't think about server side, let alone website side architecture. If you're doing it correctly, structurally to begin with, they don't have any hope of catching up. Just install the WP plugin, our silo plugin. You've actually got a right structure, which takes sometimes people years to even bother to play around with or figure out. So you've already got the hierarchy. I mean, Google only has so much time. I'm looking at this while I'm studying backlinks. If you really study a bookmarking campaign, which is this last update has really annihilated a lot of the old methods, the fast methods, you'll find that Google just they don't spider everything on the site. They don't spider. This is why siloing works. Similarly, you've got to tell them what you're bookmarking in the background. So you better be pinging those and RSSing those and then pointing back to your silos. If you're pointing back to your thematic silos, even your RSS feeds have more power. Okay, so we're going to give you exact specifics on how that works. But more importantly, we just want to give you an overview. None of this high technical infrastructure matters if you're just not giving decent headlines. All of this giant technical infrastructure that could cost me, if I didn't know Sue and Matt, it would easily cost me 50 grand to even begin to set that up. We're going to show you, the guys watching us how to set it up for just a few thousand or less. And that's what makes this tool so powerful and makes this craziness that we have just really like, wow. Okay, we'll go to the next one. But how do you write high converting headline-rich articles? That is the secret. How do you write articles that have an average increase of 50% higher click-through rate compared to dummy SEO-driven outsourced keyword density articles? How do you write such articles painlessly and consistently without breaking the bank? This is what we were talking about. You implement what we call PAM. Know her, learn her, love her. PAM. Painkiller article method.
Not that stuff that I spray on my Teflon.
It's the opposite of spam. It's spam without the S. Because this is stuff people stop and click on. They don't view it as spam. Okay, go over to the next one. Creating a painkiller article library should be easy because you're using a stackable business system. You already have completed your ISME, FAQ, SAQs, and now ping behind the question behind the question. And sometimes you can even extract the TIO. What are you selling? How much does it cost? What's in it for me? And why should I believe you? It's all right. It's good. I want you to be able to do that in your sleep. This means you have all of the industry questions, problems, and pains connected to the industry innovations and inventions. Questions are a form of pain or an itch that needs to be scratched. Remember when I said, and I do not...
Lyme disease thing.
I thought you were actually itching over there.
I am.
Faker, fake itch. I can work with this. I want to point out that every time, and I know I'm a little eccentric, okay, and I know that those of you who've been following me for years know that I'm a bit on the strange side. I literally do, and actually Sue has quite a few of these books now too. I really do have a library full of neuroscience and neuromarketing books that sit on my shelf, and I really do pull them down off my shelf every day. And I really do connect what I've learned in them with religious philosophy and belief systems and marketing.
Yeah, you used to be Cliffy.
Yeah, because there's no difference to me. When you're creating, all that marketing is creating rabid, avid, charismatic followers. It's like creating a congregation. For me, it's religious. And if you look at our slippery slope, which we should go to, our slippery slope, that people want to believe, and if you give them a great product, they will believe, and they literally will become religious zealots. Okay, and so this is why I wanted to understand the brain in a moment of religious rapture. This is why I want to understand the brain in the moment of asking a question. This is why I wanted to understand the brain in the moment of making a sale, or pushing a button, or clicking a mouse. And some of the best mentors out there, Gregory Burns, Dan Arley, Predictably Irrational, they pointed out that even a small pain, that a question is a pain no matter what. Your brain is in pain because it increases the dopamine to get you to act. And if you don't act, it gives you a little electric shock. So when you when you have a question, you're in pain. You put the question in there, it raises your dopamine. What are you waiting for? When you click this button right here, it's been shown in the lab, and you click the mouse of any kind, and this would be no exception. You click this here, your dopamine actually goes up, waiting for all the answers. It's only minuscule compared to receiving a new car for Christmas. Okay, a new car for Christmas, your dopamine is like, right? Google is like, but it's still there. What's your job as a marketer? To build on that. Keep getting that call to action. Keep getting that dopamine from, okay, here's Google, here's a new car. Your job is to connect the dots between that and the new car and have somebody go through a transaction with you. And for you, it's literally a new car. It's $20,000 to $25,000 that your client needs to bring in.
Yes.
And that's a transaction that requires a lot of points between A to Z and a lot of dopamine activity and a lot of questions being turned into answers, a lot of pains being turned into pleasure, than say if I was buying an ice cream cone, right? Okay, so questions are a form of pain or itch that needs to be scratched. I explained all that to you in ADNA. The reason I was so passionate about it is because when you realize how easy it is to do that every time using our system, you can't do it with any other systems that I've ever heard on Earth, ever. There's nothing else that I've seen that allows, it's disjointed. You're always down here. Now you got a copywriter over here. Now you got a social media expert over here, and he's arguing with the copywriter. And then you got the sales letter over here. And then your SEO guy in the Philippines who's charging you $4 an hour for SEO keywords, is mixing up all the words, but the content doesn't make sense anymore. And then you're using the Zarkov generator in your third rings to create spam. And then you got your backlinks. And I mean, how people who have been churning and burning over the years just don't want to shoot themselves in the head, I don't know how they do it. Because keeping this all consistent is what matters. Okay, now. Your painkiller articles will get created 10 times faster than your competition because of your prior stackable work.
Woohoo!
I owe this knowledge to Sue Bell, Matt DeCruz, Kelly Reynolds. I also had excellent teachers in the past who taught me this. And as you can tell, I'm a marketer. I'm not a programmer. I don't like form. I don't like structure. I'm a musician. I specialize in improvisational jazz on several instruments. I like the structure just enough so I can dump it. Okay? So, but I gotta tell you, do not deviate. Don't improvise on the system until after your keyword research, after KDNA. It can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
You can write a great headline and have ignored Matt or Sue on a keyword that's worth $900,000 total search market value a month, and replace it with another synonym instead. And the way that we have this set up, you would literally not find the person who would be putting in the correct keyword and question. You might find the other one instead, who's got no money. It actually matters.
Learn the rules before you break the rules.
Exactly. Learn the rules before you break the rules. Excellent. Okay. how to scratch this. Review or swipe a painkiller article template created by John Ledger. I am happy to give John credit for creating an awesome software that's not your average spinner. He's famous for doing all kinds of spin tags. I don't use a lot of that stuff. A lot of our users do. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't leave any footprints. Don't leave any PHP stuff. Our software doesn't leave any of that stuff. Okay, however, this software is different. This is not a spinner. I don't use it for the spinner function. I use it because John got his start in article writing. He got his start in writing articles that actually matter based on bullet points, based on sentences. And it's not copywriting. It's article writing with help. Painkillerarticlemethod.com, and you can also download the PDF templates that use similar painkiller article method formats. You've seen these, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they're very, very important because all they simply do in John software, you can type in and it'll change it around, or you can just use these templates and go right into Domain Web Studio and just do it right there. I don't even need John software anymore. I just go like, here's the template. I know it just comes out of me. I know how each sentence is a pain being answered by your services.
But if we've done our SDNA, it makes those templates easy to fill.
Much, much easier. In fact, you can just dump them in. What's crazy, and here's the $1 million thing, you could actually outsource them. Never in the past could you really outsource pains and you know what I mean? You can't be an absolute SEO person. It has to be somebody who has skill in creating articles and providing pain articles. But when you're done, you can actually sleep at night by outsourcing this. These kinds of articles, I would not sleep well at night if I was giving them to anybody else but the inventor or the product innovator or somebody in their company who'd been selling it, a salesman who'd been selling it for a long, long time. They wrote the best consultative articles of anyone I ever met because they understand. Most people in sales know that what's the question behind the question in this article. And these articles are great because you can go on the next one. Transform the headline into an SAQ even when it contains an FAQ money keyword. Okay. The point here is that you're going to get the gist. You're going to have your SAQs and you're going to fit them into the article. And the article headlines are great. John sets those all up for you. And you've seen these about. Using article directories focus on this. 3 problems you must avoid if you're going to survive the zombie apocalypse. And what we know about if you're going to rank during the Google Panda massacre, all right? There's a bunch of things happening in that headline, but the 3 things about, remember how I said be specific about as specific as possible? If the brain feels general, literally something that's overwhelming, like Matt just said, 3 things you absolutely must know in order to survive the zombie apocalypse. I'm being humorous with the zombie apocalypse. If it's a really negative thing or a really scary thing or a really big and daunting thing, I found this out in the tax industry. 2 things you can quickly do to relieve your pain from back taxes. Okay, whereas the sentence, got back taxes, or are you dealing with back taxes or something that people won't read it. There's actually pain even addressing it. But if you give them 2 things, the likelihood of clicking and engaging is far more because what you've just done in the headline is magic, it's sorcery. You've actually quantified this giant thing, back taxes, into 2 things.
H&R Block in Canada did an ad on that, and the doctors walk over to the man and they open up the apron and he's on his side, and the lady says, "Oh, we can't help you, that's a tax pain."
That's branding. If you're going to deal with a headline, you want to. Okay, that was. I'm actually taking you literally for how very, very different that approach is. I'm not going to get into it here because it's really not a headline. In fact, all that does to me is emphasize what the pain actually is, and that's not a campaign I would have recommended for H&R. If I take Cialdini or the neuromarketing mentors, that's kind of like what they're trying to do is make them laugh at something that people don't really find funny. And humor is really a way in there, but actually that was a waste of a huge opportunity in my opinion. This is my opinion. Like if I was on that campaign, I would do it differently. The reason I say that about headlines is as soon as you give it 2 or 3, you've actually done some hypnosis, some headline hypnosis writing the article. So the 3 things about 3 simple things to get rid of your back taxes immediately. You've just literally relieved their pain just by the way that you put the headline. In other words, that headline is a drug. Literally a drug, because by putting it in terms of 3 things, instead of letting that word back taxes be ominous and remain what's already ominous in their mind, like that doctor and the pain. Okay? We already know it's painful, it's already ominous. What good does that do? Okay, maybe makes them laugh. You have to look at the stats. On a headline like that, but by using the word 3, you're actually lowering the pain threshold and raising their dopamine threshold. The raising of dopamine is the lowering of pain, because there's hope. You know how they say hope springs eternal?
Yeah.
That's a cliche I do accept.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the next one.
You've quantified it into something that's...
Be as specific as possible, as many places as possible without sounding gimmicky. And the problem is there's a new layer of gimmicky, there's a gimmicky radar, a gimmickness radar now on the internet. And part of this gimmickness, this gimmicky radar, this gimmick radar came from all of our buddies like Frank Kearns and all of the great marketers out there, some of them who are my great mentors, and also Headline Automator Pro is to blame.
Facebook, if you have the same headline going too many times for too long a time on Facebook, and it gets thumbed down too many times, your cost actually goes way up.
That's the first time in history they've had a social radar for headlines, and
in the Facebook ad campaigns?
Yeah. And so Facebook is actually helping people to recognize gimmickry faster and faster.
Yeah, and that was their intention. And Facebook is an entirely unique environment. This is why I'm being really specific when I'm thinking of gimmickry and thinking of being specific. I'm thinking of, remember that article we went through yesterday about the solar thing? Save $97.64. You got to be really, really careful with that because of Headline Automator and a lot of the other mentors out there that taught this. You remember that Headline Automator? You'll see them still. People still use them. Who else wants to buy Ford to? Have you ever seen that? Who else wants to buy? Yeah. Anybody who's done a lot of sales company will remember me. That's a Headline Automator. And one of the things that the Headline Automator has, which has been launched millions of times, which is now on the radar for people who are just looking for scams, is how I made $2,465.23.6041526. That's what we call taking these little neuro strategies and taking them too far.
Yeah.
Okay. These random number generators, and those ads still do convert more than a general headline. It doesn't matter that they're automated. So just keep that in mind. If you want things to go a bit faster, you may consider purchasing Article Factory software. It's up to you. Okay, you can get it here. Yes, it is an affiliate link. But we don't need you to just do whatever you need to do if you feel like you want it. You don't need it. I give you the free PDFs. If you want things to go a bit faster, you may consider purchasing, I'm already here. The painkiller article method templates take care of the neuromarketing positioning so that you can write, your writing team does not have to think about it. The templates are fill in the blank. So we're going to go with this. They can be altered by subject matter expert.
Yes.
So if I don't feel comfortable about my area, this is you too. You're becoming an expert. One of the things Sue and I have always said is you are probably going to be an expert by the time you're done with a client in this method. This is why you need to make sure they pay you a lot. But it's really fun because you can earn what you learn. The painkiller articles, when complete, can be spun for unique written content if required. They do have a spinning function. I do not recommend that is its use. Okay, I have used it, it's fine. That's not how I use it. Okay? These articles can be brought into Domain Web Studio, proper certification, distribution, or you can provide your team with a raw PDF template and avoid the expensive Article Factory. We're giving that to all members. Just log into the members area at networkempire.com. Here's a quick overview of why the PAM method creates headline-rich HTML article ideal for Perpetual retweet machine. And again, Perpetual retweet machine does not mean Twitter necessarily. It's a great example of what we mean by social media spaces that you can automate. Okay, so these two. Now, here's just a thing. This is actually inside John's software. And this is not the best one in the world, so I wrote this almost a year and a half ago, so I don't want to be called to the bench on the specifics. I did it in like 4.5 minutes. 5 things to avoid when connecting social media to your SEO campaign. Okay? Our lives are usually positive. That's a fortunate blah, blah, blah. A lot of this, what's amazing, to give you an idea how mechanical and binary the human brain is, this is what I love about John's application. It's actually uncanny and weird how his template, I did not write this, he did. And you can make some tweaks, and I always do make some tweaks right in here. And as soon as you click on a letter or a sentence, it changes into an editable line. So you can change any sentence anywhere, anytime, this whole thing, if it looks too dorky. But it's uncanny how, for every market, all the questions and the pains and the setup and the interesting but incomplete setup is the same for every single thing. And you almost don't notice it as long as you're filling in the ISDNA facts. And it's profound. And this shows you how binary the process of somebody in pain looking for help really is. Okay? Now, he's done a lot of the work. For example, but there are actually some downsides to it too. You can see it sounds very general. But the thing is that you can get very specific in here if you want. You can change it. This short article can help you with how to avoid common mistakes people make when publishing their marketing message. It's just something I whipped up in like, 20 minutes. And I pulled it out of my ISDNA for some product that I'm doing. It will help not by telling you to do the following, blah, blah, blah. I would change that. It helps by instructing you on 5 things you want to avoid. You want to avoid if you want to start building your social media, Facebook friend and Twitter list. Okay, whatever. You can get this, and you notice how specific. See what John did with his syntax is he's keeping it general. We're all the same. We're all in the same kind of pain. Here's what you need to avoid. Avoidance is better than right. And then you add the specifics. You add the hard work. That's why he was able to do this, because how hard was the ISDNA? It was a lot harder than just creating a spin tax program. And he who if you have the ISDNA, you have everything. You can spend seconds, minutes building $1 million article, like literally. And when you test these, you'll find it. Go to easy article, the rest. Now the cool thing is, for those of you who like to spin, his article does spin with no footprint and the rest. I've used the spinner, and the article is very unique. I don't like to spin hundreds. I only like 2 or 3 variations because they got to be tight. I'm writing my articles always for WR1.
Yep.
There are people who do this for WR2 and 3 with the new Panda updates and the whatever, Penguin or whatever. There's no point, because all I'm interested in is the one feed system that Sue and Matt and I are still completing. We have huge amounts of it already. Think about this. If you were to break this down into individual sentences, you have about half the article that's clickable in a social environment. Some more than others. And again, provide a very simple but interesting question about a topic. Right? Okay. Start building your social media, Facebook friends, and Twitter list. ... building. Right. The main reason that you should not do Twitter site space blah 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 ... Right. Okay. So the tweet extraction or perpetual retweet machine, you'll be able to go in there, and you can still hand edit the tweets if you want on a large scale. You can just outsource it if you wanted to add But also, if you just want to automate it on a WRS2, whatever, you can just spin them out. And you're going to get clicks.
That ... point that you raised is starting to happen a lot more in Google in the meta description.
Yeah.
And that resonates with people because they could be looking for that same profile.
Yes.
In social.
And another thing that's happened, again, that falls into the mechanism of the open loop.
Yeah.
There's the mechanistic open loop, like weird or ...
It's a mental trigger. ...
still falls in the category of interesting but incomplete.
Yeah.
So just by the very fact that a sentence is incomplete can drive behavior, but not necessarily conversion. And that can backfire if it's incomplete. And if it's incomplete and incongruent, they'll defriend you. And that's what I love about this environment. You have to be congruent with what's happening. So this is stuff I know you're very social, so I know how aware you are in social spaces. So this is an idea, and the more you write these articles and the more you try it out, the more you're going to see that you can break them down into killer sentences. Okay, with very little tweaking. Okay, so that's the idea behind the painkiller method. Matt? So, FAQ, keywords, social media campaign, and SEO campaign. This is a micro campaign I did off of a micro site. It wasn't a fully siloed site, it was just a test. 5 things to avoid, social media, SEO, in the headline, right? It'd be nice if you could weight things forward. That's the old SEO thinking. But the thing is, I'll take any time the 5 things to avoid because I know it's specific. You could probably change it and come up with creative ways. The SAQ translation is what to avoid and should ask question. There are default universal should ask questions, like how do I avoid pain? Remember the question behind the question? Avoidance is the big one. How do I move towards pleasure and how do I avoid pain? Those are the universal painkiller questions. Okay. And the neuromarketing click magnet is avoid pain, danger, and hassle. Common mistakes. The word mistake has a huge reticular activation. Reticular activation is I'm humming along, driving down the highway, and all of a sudden there's a flash on my left. There are certain words that are reticular activators that are flaggers. Mistake, avoid, pain. Even these words themselves have the energy of the things themselves to people. The language center has connected to the actual experience. So you should really use those triggers when you can. but don't use them in places where it seems like a gimmickry.
Where it's been forced, yeah.
Or for example, if I'm on my Facebook wall where I'm hanging out with all my friends, don't be a network marketer at the dinner table. Don't do that. And people do that. If I started talking in headlines, well, the thing about Facebook context is it's got to be natural. If every single thing I posted on my personal Facebook wall was 2 things you should really avoid when dealing with, I actually have a family member who does,
So I don't have friends?
does post a lot of stuff related to her business, but she has to keep it really social, and when she publishes the world to be different. Okay, so next. When the PAM article is completed and high quality, it may be ready for one of your WR1. That's the soul of your brand, the site that's got your soul on it, like real stuff. And your WRS1 branded sites, your Facebook page, your fan page role, or your fan page timeline, your LinkedIn. When this is done, this article should be good enough to talk to real people about. If it's a lower quality, you haven't had somebody look at it, your content auditor hasn't audited it, then stick it out. Don't use it anywhere in your first tier network. Put it somewhere else. Okay, if at all. I don't want to get into an argument about that because some people's standards are different. All right, there are some markets that I would absolutely use these at second tier. I don't have a problem doing that. Okay, check. Oh, headlines can be extracted and auto-syndicated through social status updates at appropriate levels with your market domination web ring, right? So remember, if it says high quality enough to be out on your first ring, it's going to get tweeted out. And of course, you can turn it into a video script, which we'll talk about next if you want to. If it's really good, wow. I'm pretty good getting up in front and talking in videos and stuff like that. I've been trying to become a better speaker because I've been told that I use too much technical language and I get off topic really easily and I'm kind of all over the place. All true. But if I've got this sitting in front of me, that's almost like having bullet points. Literally, you can just copy and paste this and put it in a video reader. What do they call that? A teleprompter.
Yeah, teleprompter.
Teleprompter. But I've done this actually. I've used the teleprompter and just kind of gone through it. What I do now is I'll take these bullet points and I'll turn them into a slide rocket show. This is my favorite software ever created for communication because I can use it for marketing, conversion, SEO, all of it at the same time. If I take these 5 things to avoid and put them in a single truncated bullet point, I can put them in Slide Rocket in under 5 minutes, with a nice picture for each slide, 1 thing each, videotape it, upload it to YouTube, syndicate it through the network, and we have sales rolling in 30 minutes later. That's how fast this goes. This is not like theory. This is fast. Now, I can still do that even if I didn't write an article like this. If I'm in a hurry, I just syndicate content, right? The harder route to go is to have an expert on the topic, for example, me, an expert in content curation or something like that, and then give the video to a writer and have them write an article on it. That's harder and more expensive because they have to write it by hand. However, a transcription is a different story. They can take my video and create a transcription on it, as long as it's not going to your WR1 site.
Obviously, because you have someone rewriting.
Yeah, because transcriptions, to have a really high quality transcription is kind of expensive. I get them done for $5 on Fiverr, and they're okay. I put them on a second tier blog, or I might put them on WR2 if it's me.
Yeah, we use transcribe.
Right. Okay, that's great. All right, Matt. When an article is written in this way, there is a surprising number of sentences that can be used as tweets with little or minor changes. Here's an example. I did some tweet extractions here. If your post is too complex, people will tend to ignore it in favor of no-brainers. ... I didn't remember, I just took this in a system and tore it apart in what's going to become our tweet extractor and used a little PHP script. And over half of these were intriguing enough if I've targeted my Twitter followers or my social media followers and they know who I am. Remember, the tweet's going to go out, it's going to have a bit.ly, and it's going to link back to this specific article for congruencies. I'm having Matt design this part of it, because this is where, I'm having one of our programmers do the shredding, but because we already have the stuff in place to point directly to the article we're talking about.
How do you do this
manually
right now?
The power of something like this is amazing when you're actually Twitter is growing and your social media is basically growing. So avoid consistently talking about yourself or your company or brand ... Is somebody going to click on that if they know who you are? Or they know what you're... Yeah. I mean, I'm so surprised. This would be an error and look self-serving. Don't do this because it looks self-serving will be an error, right? Avoid driving traffic to other people's website from your Twitter, blog, ... I would click on that. So when you write like this, it's rich and leading context. It's interesting but incomplete and leading, and it's congruent with your brand or the keywords that your Twitter account was made on or the category. I just love this because
It also dials into ravenous fans.
oh, it just dials in. It dials in. And I have to say, it's the painkiller article writing method that allows this to be more automated. If I had written any other way, if I had taken, and you can do any kind of article, you can do SEO articles, but if you garbage in, garbage out. What I like
It's much tougher to extract that.
there's an amazing book called Writing for the Rest of Us. Okay, really what it's about, all they really do is tell you to take long run-on sentences and shorten them. And if you can take those long run-on sentences and shorten them into painkillers and, pain, solution, pain, solution, pain, solution, you have a great Twitter hackable context that can match the current environment's almost mind-numbingly short attention span.
Yeah,
And that's what we're trying to do.
Because we don't read the web, we scan the web.
Yep, and we want attention span, we want nice micro chunks for short attention spans that also can be recompiled back into giant thesis papers. Okay? Isn't that great? I just really love this. Example of extracted sentences. Avoid consistently talking about yourself or your company. Okay? If your Twitter post is too complex, people will tend to ignore it. ... Avoid using metaphors, analogies, and descriptive examples by tweeting ... Avoid writing complicated concepts in small Twitter-sized spaces. ... If I'm an expert on Twitter and social media, this is relevant to the things that I speak about and talk about, right? And hopefully, what main thing I want to let you guys know is that this needs to be congruent with the category, the blog, the site. I like to micro-theme my Twitter accounts. If I'm not talking about something with a Twitter account, I don't want to, And remember, my Twitter account is comprised of lots of people's accounts, like famous people in the SEO space. I'm constantly following their followers and they're following me back. Okay? Keep in mind, if you're following our perpetual retweet machine method, your followers will be very interested in this topic that you auto-tweet. These auto-tweets can be automated, just set and forget. These tweets will go out every hour until the article is used up. You can make up manual adjustments to tweet if desired. Okay? This software is under construction, but most of this stuff you can already do. You can auto-tweet, you can use Twitter feed.
It'd be nice if you could have your own shortener, because Bitly it's easy to crack. If a competitor wants to understand your social profile, they can crack into your Bitly.
If you use free Bitly.
Yeah.
I don't use free Bitly ever. Always get an API key with each Bitly account. Always, always, always. Okay, and you have to. In fact, I'm so serious about this. If you saw my, dozens of Twitter accounts, each one has its own unique Bitly tied to it. That's how serious I am about surgically targeting each account. Okay, and I still would use like Hootsuite and other services, but Hootsuite has its own link shortener tied to it.
Yeah, so does Market Suite.
Yeah, and there's several blog plugins that have auto link shorteners that you can add to them. Matt and I have discussed having a Domain Move Studio link shortener integrated. It's very, very easy. It's a simple script. There's libraries for it. All it does is attach this shortener to your domain. I use Google link shortener when I'm doing stuff for emailing because it does seem to affect things. I can't vouch for that right now, but they like their own link shortener and they follow it. Okay, but what we really want to talk about is I have a plugin that I use for any blog that will turn any link into a short link that's got your domain tied to it. That's the holy grail. Right. That where your domain is still the source of the truncation. Okay. The second thing would be your Google. If you have, you know about Google link shortener, right? Mm-hmm. Have you been, you're aware of Google link shortener?
Well, the two approaches there that I go in and I create the URL the longer way approach is you go in and use the Google system to create your link, and then I use a shortener to shorten that.
Yeah, you understand the difference, but understand the theory about how each work. If Matt goes to his Google link shortener right now, if he was logged into Gmail, I don't even think he uses Gmail. So if you let, no, he doesn't. Yeah, any good programmer will shy away from Google right now. They just will, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But if you use a link shortener, and put your URL in it, if it's going to be tied to your Google account. So keep in mind that you actually want that and don't want that. So if you're in your WR1, I do automatically recommend that you get a Google account for your WR1. I don't care because you're not going to hide anything. If you're going to use a link shortener, that link shortener is going to be tied to that Gmail account, and it does something. like, tied to your dashboard. I noticed that it gets spidered, actually spiders my links. I'm actually seeing clicks off of it and I track my analytics, so on and so forth. But the ideal system is to have a link shortener tied to your domain. Okay, there's a plugin that works really nicely for that, and there's other things that you can get, okay? Excellent. Quick neuromarketing lesson. This is your brain on pain. This is the most important neuromarketing lesson that we can give you. I think I've already given it to you, though. In fact, maybe the only lesson you ever need. Why do human beings click one banner and not another? Let's stop here for a second. Brian?
I don't have an answer.
Now that's an answer you would really want to know, right?
Yes.
So pay attention to that feeling of like you're anticipating the next slide. That's the feeling of dopamine raising. And you want to create that for your clients. You want to create that with the headlines, with the social media, with the images, everything. Next. To close a loop.
Yes. The hook question mark.
It's binary. Yes. So we want them to close multiple loops at the same time. Gimmicks, people click on just because it's a gimmick. And they're pissed off and they walk away and they remember you. But congruency, when you close a loop that's related to the original pain and you give them more information and it's better than expected. Okay, better than gold. Yeah. Dr. Gregory Burns, one of the foremost researchers of dopamine, explains that dopamine is really not about reward and pleasure. It's about your brain being triggered that something is better than expected. And that's what makes it so strange. We're going to show that video to our people watching this, our students. And we've got, if you go to Themes in Glossary and you type in dopamine, you'll be taken to a page that has a video by a neuroscientist who explains better than expected. It's important because it's headline. It's how you write headlines. You want to under-promise and over-deliver, but you still want your promise to be clickable. What gimmicks do is they over-promise and under-deliver, and they hurt your brand. So close that loop with something better than they might have even imagined, and then you have a customer for life. For you mad scientists out there, it is the brain's neurochemical dopamine that makes them want to close the loop. That's why I spent a lifetime studying dopamine, at least the last 10 years. It's my favorite topic. Okay, that's dopamine. Carrot is the chemical, the neurochemical carrot on the stick. Not only that, your brain punishes you when you get what you want. And the way you offset that for your customers is you know their brain's going to punish them, so don't make them mad. Give them what they came for. This is B.T. Barnum, the famous American entertainer. Give them what they came for, and then some. Okay. Bad marketers, they don't get this. They're just trying to get a list. They're just trying to build a list. Okay. Oh.